go to the next thing very quickly. So, did you see that video I sent you of Peter Windsor talking about Norris versus Piastri? Did you see the video I sent on our channel?
Yes, I did.
So what Peter Windsor said is that after qualifying, when Piastri came first, Piastri said, I was paying. I figured out that Norris is good in certain parts of the track. So what I figured that out during free practice. So what I decided to do was not even try in those corners and focus on the others. So, and then after winning the race, they noted that Piastri was also doing well in the places where Norris was doing well. But the point I'm making is that Piastri played Norris. What he did was he held his speed. And he watched what Norris was doing in free practice when Norris was having a fantastic time. Remember, both you and I said, Norris is winning this weekend, though. So what Piastri noticed was that from 8 to 9, Norris is fantastic. Curve 8 to curve 9. So what Piastri now did was he said, I can't touch him in those areas. That means I have to improve every other corner. And what Peter Windsor said is that Norris made the big mistake of showing all his cards in free practice. This is what he does every session. He's going super fast, but meanwhile, Piastri and his garage is looking at Norris's data and telemetry, and they're learning things from Norris because he's going all out. And then after he learns everything from Norris before going all out, he now decides to go all out. So what it shows you is, once again, the cold-blooded calculatedness of Piastri. Let Norris do all-out driving, and let's look at his telemetry and see what works and doesn't work. And now I can see what I can challenge him and what I can or what I can't. And if you noticed in qualifying, Piastri, where he won his time, was on the high banked corner. He went a little bit higher than Norris because he knew he'd get more downforce. So it shows you the level of analysis that Piastri is doing. And it also shows you that Norris might want to think to become more like Schumacher and co., where you don't show everything in free practice, especially when you know you're good. Norris knew he was good, so he went all out in free practice to send a message. But what he was really doing was giving data and telemetry to Piastri's garage. What do you think, Afolabi?
Yeah, you have to be streetwise when it comes to this kind of scenario because the margins are very tight. And I respect Piastri for that because he shows that cold-bloodedness as well as that mental fortitude to be able to, in neck-to-neck comparisons with Norris, you always find that Piastri has more psychological stability and mental fortitude compared to Norris. I mean, street wisdom, the margins are very close. You can't put all your aces on the ground because look at the qualifying. I think it was 0.012. It was a hairline. And all this data translates to victory. So you have to keep your cards close to your chest. And that's where I feel Piastri is quite ahead of Norris.
Yeah. Norris is straightforward. He drives all out all the time, but he may need to learn a little bit more guile.
He needs to be a bit more streetwise.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Kule? Yeah.
Yeah, Piastri is vastly improving with every race. He's
scary. That guy's scary, man.
Yeah. And what happened in the last race, Norris was under the impression that he was gaining on Piastri, but Piastri said he was just messing with this guy.
He was nursing his tires.
Yeah, and this track exposes the car. This car exposes the car, and it sort of removes a little bit of the driver ability. It depends on if you're driving the same car, and you have it exposes the limits of your talent against driver 2. And I think that the gap between Piastri and Norris is going to be quite big. I think that they're going to finish
by next year.
I think Piastri is going to lap faster than Norris. I think that this is not the kind of track that Piastri needs to play in the same way that he played in Holland, keeping him behind.
Yeah, because it's not as technical. Yeah.
Exactly. And this track is going to allow the McLaren engine to express itself. And if it's a one-on-one between Piastri and Norris, I'm beginning to pick up Piastri every time now.
And what's scary is that Piastri's 25, and he keeps getting better. I'm not saying, obviously, Max has more talent than Piastri, but I think that Piastri is so methodical that his ceiling may even be higher than Max if Max isn't careful. Here's why. I think Max...
He has a higher ceiling.
Let me tell you why, because I'll tell you why. Max only knows how to drive one way. Max, for the first time, was ashamed to admit it. Oh, sorry, my phone came on. So Max is ashamed. They said the other he's ashamed to admit that he still has a problem with understeering, which means that Max is not able to adapt to slow speed corners, and he's finally admitting it. So I think that it's not that Piastri is more talented than Max. Piastri has a better learning ability. He's not as dogmatic as Max. So Max only wants to drive one way, whereas Piastri is more open to being flexible on both high and low speed corners. What do you think of Falabi before we go to Kunle?
Yeah. But basically, you hit the nail right on the head. And if you look at Max Verstappen, he has a particular way of driving. And Piastri, to me, he has a very high ceiling. But this looks like his breakout season. Depending on what goes on this season, I believe he's going to win the drivers this season. And McLaren, right, so the constructors. But he would look back at his career and really feel that this was his breakout season. And
and he's a breakout season, and he hasn't reached his apex in
he has not
yet.
He has not. He has
not.
I think he's fortunate to be behind the wheels of an extraordinarily good car.
Yeah, and he also has Mark Webber, who was in Red Bull and was done wrong by Sebastian Vettel. So he has a mentor who's teaching him the nuts.
Okay, that's like his coach.
Mentor, yeah.
Mentor.
What do you think? Danny Ricciardo as well was done wrong by Red Bull. Red Bull likes to do Australians wrong a lot.
Yeah, so I think this guy. I predict that he'll win about 3 or 4 championships, and then Verstappen might win 8. But if not for Piastri, Verstappen might have won 12 championships. That's what I can say. So this is shit crazy. So that's good for the sport. And then you got guys like Bortoleto who are coming up. So the sport is good. But I think in the next 5 or 6 years, it's going to be Piastri and Verstappen, and then maybe George Russell too a little bit. What are your thoughts, Kunle, before we go to Falabi?
For George Russell to become relevant, Mercedes have got to do the work to bring him up to speed. I think Russell's problem is more Mercedes than Russell. I think it's really sad that we know the Mercedes are not going to compete on this track. They need to sort out that problem.
And meanwhile, Antonelli is starting to have tantrums. And Antonelli is a good child. So for him to start having tantrums, it means they're doing wrong, man. Go ahead. Yeah.
And obviously, you can't have the conversation about the top 5 without mentioning Hadjar. He's been there far too frequently.
He's ready for Red Bull. He's ready for Red Bull.
Yeah, he's been there far too frequently. He's mixed it up with the Ferraris. He's mixed it up with the Red Bulls. He's the only people he hasn't really mixed it up with are the McLarens. But he's mixed it up with every single other team on the track. So he's right up there. He could also be someone that could be a major challenge to Piastri.
How much time do we have left?